We'll call the July 26th P and Z Commission meeting to order. So I don't know, if anyone's online, there are instructions for Zoom if people, is anyone? Okay. Let's start off. I think we have a new person we should introduce here. Louisa.
Yeah, this is Louisa. She's joined our team and will be taking over as our building permit tech position. So she'll be with you on your planning and zoning commission nights, and I'll be training for the next couple meetings.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay, so let's do a roll call.
Commissioner White,
Here.
Commissioner Waller.
Here.
Vice Chair Waller. Commissioner Hardcastle.
Here.
Commissioner Wissing. Commissioner Weimer.
Okay.
Commissioner Shaver.
No.
Commissioner Sipperly. Commissioner Davy. Commissioner Connerton. All right,
I'll make a motion to seat Commissioner Weimer.
Second.
I guess I'm not supposed to make a motion, but I did. All in favor? We'll just do a hand vote. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Mitch, join us. Thank you. Okay, next thing on the agenda is the receipt of the minutes from June 28th, 2022. Any comments on the minutes? So I guess they're good. So
I believe the word is excellent.
they're excellent, but they will be more excellent next time. Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Do I need to reference the date or anything like that? No, don't include that in the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second, Jake.
Okay. We'll just do a little hand vote here. All in favor? Say it.
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, so we're accepting the minutes as written for June 28th. Next thing on the agenda is, are there any comments from citizens appearing for items not on the agenda? Seeing there's none, we'll move on. We have one new item this time. It's on planning file number 54-21. And I think right now it's a staff presentation.
Yeah, well, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Watkins Folk Gray. Not here with you all every month, but it's good to see you all. And so we're here tonight to consider a minor site architectural plan that seeks to replace 6 existing residential units with 14 new units in 2 buildings. In the vicinity of the site, we've got a single-family residence to the south, single-family residence to the north, and multifamily housing, orchard townhomes in the rear of the lot. The process tonight is that if the P&Z, if you all approve the project, the next step will be a final plans review, which is administrative, and then concurrently with that, there will be an administrative lot line or administrative plot consolidation. Let's see. So about the site, there's some slope on the site. It slopes kind of generally downhill from the north to the south. Not so much slope that that would trigger our sensitive area protections. The water is supplied by the city, and the sewage is supplied by West Glenwood Springs Sanitation District. I think it's worth noting in this project that there's no sidewalk on this side of the street, the west side of the street where the site is, and there's none being proposed either. Normally with this type of redevelopment, we would be requiring sidewalk to go in. but County Road 135 is, has been exempted from this requirement. It's on a list that was approved by city council to only have sidewalk on one side of the street. And there's a portion of sidewalk that's been begun on the east side of the street. Staff's analysis finds that with the conditions of approval as laid out in the packet, the project would meet the requirements of the development code. Some of the conditions of approval that I think are worth noting for you all are several changes that would be required to the landscaping plan. Delineation of the storage and the amount that's required by the code for each unit. Changes to the primary material on 2 of the elevations of one of the buildings. A reconfiguration of the bicycle parking, and a kind of redesignation of the community housing units. The applicants have stated that they understand these conditions and don't have any issues with them, with one possible exception, which they'll have the chance to discuss with you all. And then finally, before we get to your comments and questions, I wanted to state that I have not received any public comment yet on this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to you all. Happy to take any questions.
Do you have any questions from the commission? I know you do. You're very
I'll give you a
quiet.
minute to ponder it, but if there are none, then next we will receive comments from the applicants.
Yeah, it looks like we have no questions. Thank you very much. Oh, wait.
No,
do have-
I was just, sorry, I was just waiting for other people to first. Let's see if I can make sense of my notes here. I just wanted to, it looked like there were in lieu fee waivers, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looked like there were 2 referenced. And I was just wondering if you could go over those again, for us to just really clarify what those waivers are for.
Sure. One that we know that the applicants have stated they want to pursue is a fee in lieu of providing public art. As you all know, this is a new requirement in the code. And so they have the option of either providing public art on the site, or there is a formula for paying the fee in lieu. And they've stated that that's what they would like to do. There are a number of other system improvement fees that will come into play down the line when we get actually at a building permit stage, is when they would be due. Things like parkland dedication, school land dedication. And so those are all have options to do fee in lieu also.
And are those the fee waivers because of the affordable housing piece of?
Well, parkland, school land dedication, those are required for all new development. Often it doesn't make sense to do parkland dedication if you're on a small site like this. It's really only designed for if you have a massive site where you could build a park on it. So we not much space for parkland here. I think y'all would agree. And so
Hence the fee in lieu. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's see. This seems like an awful lot of conditions to approval. And maybe I'm mistaken in that, but 35, it just seems like a longer list than I'm used to seeing. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that I put, there are many conditions and comments from Public Works and Engineering. And many of them I'd characterize as minor. But I included all of the engineering or all the Public Works comments. And so that took up a large number of them.
So you were just being thorough in stating them all. That's great.
Trying to be.
And then this is just kind of, you know, I know this isn't a comment section, but I know that we've talked about those traffic study. The traffic studies and how those are being tracked, and we're not the experts in that, but it just seems a little silly that you have 6 residential units, you're increasing to 14, and they're saying that it's only gonna add 6 trips daily, which seems just silly to me, but I don't know how that math even works, but again, I'm not the expert, so that's just kind of a comment that I noticed.
Oh, that could be a question.
Yeah.
It seems low to me, but
Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I can comment on that. So with traffic impacts, we rely on their engineers to make an estimate, and then we obviously review it. And we review it, we send the project to CDOT also for their comments, because the CDOT Highway 6 obviously is the feeder street to this. And they have a threshold of 20% increase in number of trips, at which case an access permit would be required from CDOT. And access permits can entail, a myriad of different intersection improvements.
mhm.
And so not meeting that 20%, that's why you're not seeing any conditions related to the intersection or to those kind of improvements.
Oh, and I understand that there's no conditions. I think just saying that it's gonna increase trips by 6, it just seems ludicrous to me, but that's just my opinion. So,
Does that feel right to you? 14 minutes?
I would have to take the easy way out and say that I am not a traffic engineer.
well, it just seems illogical when they're saying that there's 1.5 parking spaces per unit. And yet they're only, anyways, we're beating a dead horse. It just seems low. But we kind of see this across the board. This is not something new.
Any other comments or questions? Mitch?
Yeah, hey, I guess I'd just like to understand a little bit why. I mean, landscaping seems like a pretty easy fix, like not provided. We're short one tree. And then the storage bit, not provided. Seems like easy fixes. Why are we not resolved on those pretty minor issues today?
You're right. I do think that they're minor. We review what we receive, and we don't like to kind of reiterate applications once they've been publicly noticed and once they're in the process. So we don't like to see big revisions once they've turned in their final project. And so the way we fix these things is through conditions. And then, as I mentioned, they'll be doing a final plan review. And so that's where you'll see these changes. You're gonna see these changes because it's administrative. But the fact that they are relatively minor changes is why they're conditions for approval.
And I'll just piggyback on that. It looked like in the second table that you provided us, you made a comment on those 2 items, the perennials and the street trees. You stated that staff has included this as a condition of approval. And then on the first table, the requirement met on the nose. There wasn't anything there that stated that would be a condition to approval.
I'm sorry, on the nose.
It's on the first table you provided us on
That's-
page 3.
It's what Mitch just asked about.
Yeah, so this is just kind of addressing the same thing. They're minor issues, but I believe I did read in the conditions to approval that these items, the surface area landscape, that the requirement was not met. The interior landscape was a no as well. And then the storage was a no.
Right.
But those are actual conditions to approval in the list, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in your second table, you had just put that the staff included that as a condition of approval. Those are also conditions to approval, it sounds like.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. And I'm saying they're questions, but so that one is, are any units for sale or is everything for rent?
I think that'd be better addressed by the applicants during their comments. We've been told that they're going to be for rent.
Okay. And then a question I had one was on the building orientation, where code requires that units approach the entrance faces the street. And when you talked in there, some of them do the interior courtyard. So I'm assuming that that's okay. Is that?
Yes, I think they meet the standards. The units that do front the street have entrances on the street.
Okay, okay. And and another question I had, so when we went through and did, months ago, we did the water conservation, all of that kind of stuff. I forget exactly what it was called, but so is that changed in any of the code for, the amount of perennials, the amount of landscaping that's required? Has that been implemented yet? Is this?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
No, it has not gone for final approval with city council yet, so that's not in implementation.
So
And
this
this
is
project
the
was
old,
not subject to. Good question.
okay. I think that's all the questions that I had. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Watkins. So I guess the applicant presentation.
Yes. And I'm going to pull up the plans to.
Good evening. My name's Gabe Molnar. I think Watkins did a good job of summarizing it. There's 6 units there, 6 residences. They're older. We purchased the property in 2015. We spent 2 years getting entitlements and got those approvals in 2017. COVID came along and kind of put a stop to our plans to replace these substandard housing units with something better for the residents that are there. And so having had that approval lapsed, we've come back before you to basically re-up that approval. As part of that process, though, I would just say that I commend the city of Glenwood that the current code is far more rigorous in terms of architectural elements, landscaping, orientation, parking. There's now an engineering code. There was not an engineering code on the books in 2017. So I say that in a complimentary fashion. It has taken us a long time to basically take a plan that was approved, that was accepted and approved and welcomed by the community for all intents and purposes. It's taken us a year and it's been a good process. The plan is improved. There's more natural light. There's now an affordable housing unit. There's 2 resident occupied units. We've managed, thankfully, although it has been challenging at times with engineering, to retain our original intent, which is to not build large apartment blocks. What we want to do as small local builders, we live here in the Valley, we're not large development company, is provide housing that has garages and has covered parking and is not a sea of asphalt, and fits into the overall architectural feel of that street. So what we're really doing is trying to improve the housing situation that's currently there. And we really feel like this project accomplishes that. And if I could just speak to some of the conditions of approval. In terms of storage, for example, all the storage is there and we exceed the requirements. And that was provided to Watkins prior to the meeting, right when we received the staff report. So it's all in there. It's just that he didn't have it when he was writing the staff report. It wasn't called out. So he couldn't say you met it because it was after the staff report was finished. But I have that and I've already provided it to him. We exceed all the storage requirements and I'd be happy to circulate that email showing all the storage requirements have been met. The other requirements in terms of street trees, no problem there. And I think the other question was storage, landscaping. Is there any other, engineering? There's no variances whatsoever with our project at this point. So, we're really happy about it and we'd love to build it for the community. We'd love to be able to provide more housing and not a big sprawling apartment complex. and I'd open it up to questions.
Okay, thank you, Gabe.
Yeah.
Okay, questions from the commission?
There
Okay,
were-
Mitch, sorry.
Yeah, no, there was the one issue about secondary facade materials and it was of such a large.
Yeah.
Do you have any photos or anything you can help us
Yeah,
understand?
so
what
here,
exactly that is?
here's some,
I'm sure it's not a big deal. I'm just curious.
yeah, there's one elevation, that, Keith's a builder and he had kind of said to the architect, to make sure that this is a building that is not just slapped together and that is actually well maintained and easy to maintain. We kind of had some metal cladding coming down a little farther on the elevation, taking up a little more of that elevation. And based on Watkins' review, looking at the code, he said that's probably too much metal in that area. So we're happy to switch out that one portion of the building where there's a little too much cladding. And I can show you that elevation.
So it's resolved. It's not an issue.
It's not an issue, no. It's just an aesthetic consideration. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I think it's a really attractive small scale development. Oh, and you had a question about the orientation of the street. Yes. So the code requires that you have any units that are facing the street have a street facing entrance. So the two end units have street facing entrances.
Okay,
Originally, the plan that was approved in 2017 and the plan we brought back to planning and engineering was to keep a townhome design without the central courtyard. However, the engineering code now doesn't allow for direct entry driveways from the county road. It was going to be a townhome design along the county road with street entry garages, and engineering code doesn't allow that. So we had to entirely rework the south building, and that's where that central courtyard came in. In the end, it provides more of a community feel rather than street facing garages. You have a community courtyard.
could you put up the site plan,
Sure.
just so we could see it?
Yeah, I mean, this gives you a good feel. This is the landscape plan, which is also architects have already revised this to reflect the approved conditions of approval, which was to have a sidewalk planting strip that's going to be in there. Watkins had some questions about where the bicycle parking is going to be, and we moved the bicycle parking to make it more accessible and put one of the bicycle parking spaces in the courtyard.
So there's how many, does each unit have a garage?
So, let me grab let me grab a different one so you can actually see that in better detail. It's the same one. So here you can see this is the south building with the courtyard. This is the ground level. And then you have carports for those units. And then you have two garages. I guess the mouse didn't show it. There it is. These two units have two garages there. And then on the north building, all of the units except one have a garage. South.
You have a
So
question on
this is the ground level of the north building. So you have garages there for the upper level units. And so this is a townhome design on the north building.
Right. So I saw that, so for parking, that you were 2 over on parking, I think, 26 versus 24.
Yeah.
Whatever the number was. So yeah, that's a nice looking picture, but what's the breakdown of in garages, carports that
15 surface and then the others.
are
main
garage and
I
carport?
believe so, if I'm.
There's no uncovered parking.
There's no uncovered parking.
There is no uncovered parking. And that really was our goal.
Okay.
Is, there's no reason why people who don't have single family homes shouldn't have parking. And shouldn't have garages.
Okay.
So this may be kind of a combined question for you and
Yeah.
Watkins again, but are all the residences out there serviced by West Glenwood Sanitation?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I just feel like I've heard murmurs of the challenges of that provider as it relates to water, which you're not getting your water from there,
No, so
right?
that's
Just the
just-
sanitation.
Correct.
But it seemed like there were a lot of conditions associated with the sanitation system there. Would you just walk us through some of the improvements you're having to make to the sewer lines?
So our understanding is that that we have a letter to serve and the comments are in the package, but we haven't gotten anything to the contrary from West Glenwood Sanitation. It's on city sewer, it's on West Glenwood Sanitation now.
Okay.
And so it's, it seems, it's, for all intents and purposes, from what we know, it's properly sized
Oh, good.
for the project. Yeah. I mean, there are 6 units there already, so it's not.
Right.
And there's also multifamily all up and down that street, which
Mhm.
you likely know. But there's, much denser condominium projects there. There's 8 multifamily apartments across the street. I believe there's somebody thinking about more, maybe, we'll see, but, so there's multifamily on that street already.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Gabe. Okay, we'll open it now for public comment. Okay, would you please come up to the microphone, state your name and where you live?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Carone. I live on County Road 135, address 135. Would be 2 doors up from where you guys are planning on this build. First of all, the opinion of CDOT on the traffic conditions, it's a county road. CDOT has no idea about that road. It's a county road. It's maintained by Garfield County. So CDOT doesn't know anything about that road and why their opinion is even valued. Second of all, my understanding was that the water issue was never resolved. There's no specific whether it's okay to add those many more units to that area. And that was kind of just skipped over from my understanding, listening earlier. So that's something that needs to be looked at. The traffic on that road is horrible. The road is narrow as it is. There's no street parking. The comment about the sidewalk partially on the east side of the street comes up the road maybe a block and stops. There's no sidewalk all the way up that road, all the way to the top on either side. There's no parking signs on both sides of the street. People park there all the time. There's a unit up from me. That's a house that's a landscape company owns, and there's 15 people living in there with their vehicles also. The street is overrun right now with vehicles. The street is horrible. There's huge potholes. There's one in front of my house that I have to fill every couple months so people don't lose their front end going down the road. This project just seems like it's not realistic, and it would bring way too much traffic and way too much clutter on that road.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have at this point.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. Other comments from the public?
My name is Ruth Barber and I live on 135 Road and have lived there for a long time. The road is too small for any more traffic. Right now, you don't want to walk across the road without looking right and left and then run like mad. Because they don't drive the speed limit. No one does. They think they can start out at 15 and get 50 by the time they hit the road down there. There's nowhere to go. There's two potholes that are really big that I know they've been there for over 2 years. Nobody fills them, but that's okay. Maybe it slows them down. There's no place for kids to play. They park under the sign that says no parking on this side of the street. They park under it. The water kind of concerns me because we're having a big water shortage in the whole part of the world right now. And do we really need it in Glenwood? Don't we have enough houses going in? Don't we just need some good hometown people? They just don't know how to drive on it. I don't object to them doing something there, but let's be sensible. I don't think there's room for 14 more cars. And he said, "Are you a car and a half? Do you own a car? Do you own a half a car?" I mean, people come to my place and want to know if they can park on my ground. Well, I've told them no, because they have no parking. And it'll happen the same way with this. If there's 14 units, that means about 35 cars. Because you know, your friend comes and you live with them. I object.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Other comments?
Yes. My name is Kevin Mullins. I live on County Road 135 and 105 apartment or house. I believe this actually went in front of this board, this proposal, and was shot down. And that was approved by Mike Gamba, the mayor at the time. So I kind of think that you guys, maybe it wasn't the same crew, but there was a reason to shoot it down initially. It looks really nice. I just don't think it looks nice for our road, or it's not going to work for our space. It basically is about density, adding more cars to an already crowded road. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Hi, my name's Annette Caron. I live at 135 County Road 135. I've also lived at 169 County Road 135. 6 years up there, 6 years at the present. I do have a question, if I could ask. Is the 165 part of this bill? Because in the letter, it says 175 to 185, which would not take out the 2 mobile homes and the duplex, the house next to it, and the other big house.
Can I answer it?
Yes.
It's 175 to 185. I don't know exactly which one.
So it's all owned by Melissa?
Yeah, so correct.
Could we stop the, excuse
Okay.
me, the back and forth? I'd prefer
Yeah.
you address the chair and then you can
Okay.
ask questions later.
Okay. So we'll hold on that question and that.
So my concern with that, there's houses already there that have multitude of cars. They're running a cake business out of it. That brings in more cars anyway. People knocking on my door on a daily basis wanting to know where this address is. You have no less than 5 cars parked out in the place, plus the people coming to do business and their friends there. If you look at the roundabout, how you circle in it, it is so extremely narrow. A F-150 truck, long bed, has to back up and turn around twice. That's ridiculous. So as far as what happens when a fire truck comes up the road, they're going up, backing down, making multi-point turns just to turn around and come back down the road. I don't need to address the traffic and all that already because we already have. But the point being, if you have 4 people in your household, you have a teenager, there's 3 cars in the house per household. Not to mention all your friends. So traffic, water is a big problem. You have drainage coming off of Donegan Road all the way down when it rains, floods the bottom of the road. That is a complete mess trying to get up the road. There's no speed bumps, nothing slowing anybody down except for me going out there and yelling at people to slow their butts down. So that's my concerns that I have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Annette.
My name's Ralph. I live at the West Glen Townhomes. I think I was kind of excited about those units going away, but at the same time, I guess my concern is they're so poorly managed right now. And if it's gonna kind of be the same situation, just, in a nicer package, that'd kind of suck. But yeah, the people that live there right now, just kind of go crazy, and it doesn't seem like anybody is really looking after the units, so. Yeah, and just like, they've got like a dumpster out front that the bears get in all the time. Code enforcement won't do anything about it. And so, yeah, there's trash all the time. They're constantly hauling the bears out of Ruth's yard because they run up our trees. So, yeah. It's not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rita Goulet and I live at 130 on 135 Road. And in the past, been there for about 13 years. It was sort of a sleepy little road, wasn't too bad. But over the last, I'd say probably 7 years or something, it has gotten to the point where the traffic is scary. People, there's children that play on the road. They're constantly out there playing, shrieking, having fun, playing with their pets. And people are driving from the top of that road, getting upwards of 50 miles an hour on our road. It's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. And they're going so fast that you can't tell what color the car is when it drives by. Nobody really cares about what's going on there. And now we want to pack another, several units. Any more than what we have already is a major concern. I've seen several close calls where kids almost got ran over by people just not paying attention. So if they're going to be packing and shoehorning more apartments or, housing in there, we've got to do something about slowing down the traffic, because there's just been too many close calls. And my neighbor at one point almost got hit checking her mail. People just, this needs to be addressed before I think that we put any more accommodation on our street. So it's really a concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Penny. I live on 135 Road. I've lived in the valley forever, but on 135 Road since '07. This looks nice, but I think if you're going to pass it, you need to see what 135 Road looks like. We're talking a block. That's all it is. And we are packed in there like you can't believe. Everything that my neighbors said is true. It's basically, you can't, I guess it's like a lane and a half, I guess. It's super narrow. And this is huge. I think it looks really nice, but I don't think it's going to dominate that street. And I like the comment about if you're bringing in 14 units, how is that only 6 more trips? I'm not a mathematician, but that doesn't make sense. I'd like to have you guys come out and look at 135 Road before you approve this. Because everything that these people have said is true. You need to see what that neighborhood looks like before you approve something like this. It's kind of scary to have, we all know that these units aren't going to be 1 or 2 people. It's going to be a lot more people than that. I don't know. It's very disappointing what's happened on that road. And as one of the neighbors said, if you're going to pass it, at least put in some speed bumps. Last Friday night, they were drag racing up and down. It's 1 block long. The speed limit is 15. And there was some one of the kids out there just drag racing up and down our street because there's nothing to slow them down. And I know the developer doesn't, that isn't their problem, but I think you can tell from our neighbors, this is, if you're going to pass it, you need to go out and look at it. And don't just say, yeah, wow, this is a nice looking unit, because it is. But I'd like to have a whole area considered. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Penny.
you.
Thank you. Any other comments from public? Okay, we'll close the,
And if I may, I'd like to make one comment too. With regards to the trip generation and the traffic, Hannah brought to my attention. I didn't have the numbers in my head, but it's not 6. I think if you look at the chart and the traffic report, is it 54 maybe per day, in the 50s.
I have it pulled up. So the new proposed condition, weekday traffic trips is 102, which is an increase of 54 trips over current existing. And that's the traffic report that Watkins included in his staff report.
okay. Thank you very much.
We need to check public comment too.
Yeah, but are we finished with public comment for the room? Is there anyone on Zoom? Nope, no one's on Zoom. Okay, so we'll close public comment. And I was looking through the procedure, so we can have an applicant conversation on items that weren't addressed. So if the applicant has any comments of things they'd like to say.
I would like to recognize the neighbors' concerns and acknowledge them. The situation with the parking on that street currently, it does need work. And the units that we have up there right now, which are modular units. And I wasn't aware of some of the things that you had mentioned regarding management and so forth. So we do have professional management out there, and I'm certainly going to bring it up with them because I wasn't aware of it. Beyond that, it is a short street, as one of the neighbors mentioned. It's quite short. And right now, a lot of cars are kind of parked haphazardly on the edges of the street rather than being pulled into because of these street facing garages and short driveways and a lack of room for whatever reason. And so we're aware of that. And this project takes all of that haphazardness that's up there and puts it on site. I live on a street where I put out the little green guy that's slow down because kids are playing. I mean, I have children too. I understand that nobody wants cars zooming down their street. There are 6 units up there right now. It's only an increase of 8 units. We're not putting a large, huge apartment block up there. So while there may be concerns that are valid in terms of haphazard parking or speeds, this project meets all of the code requirements, has no variances, and provides for garage parking and hopefully provides for certainly a turnover in residents. If some of those residents are not abiding by a neighborly feel and are speeding and doing things that they shouldn't be doing while kids are out playing, we are going to have a turnover. Those units are not going to be there anymore. We're going to have brand new units. It's going to attract new residents. They're going to have maybe more respect for their community because they're living in a brand new place with their own piece of the pie and not just modular homes with a lack of parking and a lack of open space. And so maybe this helps with some of those bad apples that you're seeing.
And I think Annette had a question that we kind of got shut off on is 165 part of this?
So I'm not sure exactly what the address is out there, but I could pull up the site plan here so you can see. Yeah, this is the existing survey. So yeah, 163, 157, 169, 175, and then 185 up here. So 165, I think is, yes, it's it doesn't have its own address per the assessor, but it has a mail-in address because that's a duplex. So yes, that will be replaced.
Is it the building behind 169?
Yeah, where it says 163 here. These two are or it's up here, those are the duplexes. It doesn't show up, but one of these is also in there.
Why don't you mic up, Mitch?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to follow along on Google Maps and
Yeah,
it's not great, but
yeah, I don't know what the address is of this one here, but there's 3 modulars there. And then there's 2 frame houses on the northern end up here.
Okay. Okay, I think, well, thank you very much. I think let's bring it back to the,
Can I just ask a question to our legal
Okay.
advisor? So because that county road was exempt from the sidewalk requirements, there's really nothing we can do to require a sidewalk get put in.
It's not exempted entirely. There, in the engineering standards, there was a list that was adopted that was created in collaboration with the engineering department. And it excludes the requirement for there to be 2 sidewalks on 135 road. So one side of the road should have a sidewalk. It's a substandard street, as I think that people have mentioned. So there's it's actually part of the reason why there's actually a fee in lieu that was created, the original project when it came through. But we also exempted some streets in town from either providing any sidewalk or providing 2 sidewalks. And that list is specific to which side.
And I guess this is just another clarifying question. The street is owned by the county, so there's really nothing no,
it's owned by the city.
owned by the city. Even though it's County Road 135, I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. Okay,
sort of my question.
so it was.
That's why we say 135 road instead of county road
Oh, got it.
135.
Okay.
Can I add a small comment to that? On the west side of the street, which is what this is on, it's south of here towards Highway 6 is primarily single family homes and duplexes. Putting in a sidewalk on this side of the street, in my view, would further worsen the parking situation that residents are dealing with below our site, because you would have a sidewalk and cars would just be blocking that sidewalk constantly. So it's not necessarily that feasible to put it in on that side of the street. The other side of the street has some single family residences. It's more multifamily already, so there could be potential there, but putting a sidewalk on the east side, you're going to be taking a lot of single family homes, front yard area, and their parking zone.
Jen, my last question was, do we ever require developers, even small scale developers, to improve a street as a part of their development plan?
There is a requirement in the access and circulation section that I would have to go and look at, but it's specific to what are the impacts of the project.
Yeah, it's, if the traffic study showed that a certain number of trips would be created that would have, congestion impacts on the intersection or damaged pavement to an extent where those impacts would accrue to the public infrastructure, then it would be allowable. I think in this case, based on the traffic study and our engineers' reviews, that's not the case.
And I did misspeak. The list in the engineering standards is not specific to which side of the road, just that there would be one. But my understanding is that there is already a part of a sidewalk on 135 road. And so that would be the side on which we would have the sidewalk.
Okay, so and basically where we're back now is we're at commissioner comments, and if we want a motion, that's where we are with our process. So we've finished the public comment and the rebuttal from the developer. So,
Pete, I had one more question.
Yep.
Sort of dovetailing to your last one. The fee in lieu. Do we have? Is there potential for us to direct how the city uses that fee? Like, could we use those monies to direct for a speed bump or something like that in that street? Do we have any sort of control over that?
So when we take fee in lieu, there are sometimes requirements about the way that we have to handle the money. For example, parking, when someone pays a fee in lieu for parking, that it can only be used for parking. But anything that would, reasonably be considered a parking expense could meet that. In this case, because there's only a requirement for sidewalk on one side, we wouldn't be taking a sidewalk fee in lieu.
Fee in lieu for something, like
there was
Public art, and then
Public art.
the other,
Art.
the other dedications that,
parkland.
parkland dedication, school land dedication, almost all projects generally pay the fee rather than dedicate that land. It certainly is a possibility for the dedication of the land, but because of the site constraints for a lot of the development or redevelopment that we have, primarily those conditions are met through paying the fee.
So I guess just to clarify, in my head, is there any way that we can stipulate the direction, the use of those monies for us to construct a speed bump somewhere on 135?
I mean, I think you could put that in, we can make sure that's reflected in the minutes. And it can come up during budget cycle, which is upcoming. That's really where that decision is made, is through the budgeting for public works.
Well, and I guess I'll just kind of add on to that. I mean, could we have a stipulation? I mean, so we're just kind of having comments here before we go forward, but I know I have history in that realm where we've had to do things like speed bumps, which is not an expense. That's not a costly item thing. And maybe it's not out of these fees, but to require, speed bumps to be put in as a stipulation for the project. I know wasn't part of of what's been presented and going through here, but I mean, is that a possibility of what we could stipulate if we wanted to?
You can add any conditions you want, but I would recommend that, something like that would need to be coordinated with Public Works. I think, I don't know what the plans are for this road. And having kind of an open-ended requirement like that, I think would be hard to implement, given the time frame of development, and we don't know what the plans are for 135 road with Public Works.
Could we make a strong recommendation that the applicant work with the streets department to see if there can be any sort of mitigation with the street?
I would suggest actually engineering, because
Engineering.
they're the ones who do traffic mitigation. So if you're going to add that as a condition, I would say you could just say work with staff or engineering.
How do we word that to where it's a recommendation, but not?
Maybe a strong recommendation from us to city council to move forward with that and keep it away from the applicant's requirement, because they're not improving the road, so they shouldn't, there is no connection, there is no escrow connected with the road at all, no improvements on their shoulders, and we shouldn't put that on there. They're increasing the numbers, but on the city side, they could certainly come to the table also, right?
That's why I'm saying, I think we can just make sure that, this discussion is clearly reflected in the minutes. I don't think a condition or stipulation is necessary to accomplish that.
Does this project go in front of council? It doesn't,
No,
right?
no, it doesn't.
Or the approving?
It doesn't.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But
Or it could.
they do typically review the minutes.
other comments, before we get
And I'm,
into?
and I'm thinking aloud with this. Could an alternative be, let's table this to next month. I'm just thinking aloud. Table this to next month. And in that time, is there some coordination that could be done with the engineering department or just to help us understand what is the plan for 135 or, can we prioritize in some way improvements to this? I'm just spitballing stuff, right? But like,
Does,
or
you have
is that
the-
just not?
do you
gonna
have
be
the
productive?
priority list for Public Works for the roads? Because I mean, the roads, it's a huge
It's
thing
huge.
across the town.
Everyone's road
So,
stinks.
right,
Yes.
everyone is pissed about the roads.
Irked.
Do you,
I think
do you guys
irked.
have any,
I'm looking across the agenda.
I mean, there's no information.
I can tell you that Matt has a list that he has been working through, but it does include tens of millions of dollars worth of projects, and I could certainly ask him, but I couldn't say where 135 road fits on the priority list. I would say that one thing that you might do is ask the applicant if the applicant has a solution related to the speed bump question. So that's an option that you have on the table.
Okay. I think we're asking the applicant the question of what Jen just said.
We want you to commit
Yeah,
to putting in a speed
exactly.
bump. My name's Keith T and I'm a partner on this deal. I live in Carbondale. So your question as far as the road improvements, I know with Public Works and all the comments that they had for us that we're going to meet is going to include any street improvements that we have to do as far as road cuts across the road. Now, if they say at the bottom of this, they would be open to us coming to the bottom of the page up here and having a speed bump installed, we would be more than open to that. But I don't think I can speak for Public Works of what they want in their roads.
Exactly.
So we are going to be doing road improvements at that end of the cul-de-sac. It's just going to happen when we dig across and tie into the utilities. So I would love to help out in any way possible with that, but I just can't say that, well, we're going to just put one in. I don't think they would let us do that. So,
But you're saying that if you worked with Public Works and they were amenable to
Yeah.
doing something like that,
yeah,
that you'd be willing to
for sure.
fund
For
that?
sure. I mean, I
Okay.
don't think I have two young daughters as well, and I don't think any of us want to see people speeding up and down
Right.
our roads. So,
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if we want to go to a motion or do we have more questions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve planning item or planning file 5421 minor site architectural plan. 175, 185 County Road 135 with the findings and conditions listed in our staff report on page. What is it?
11 and 12.
11 and 12.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Now let's have comments. So questions, comments from the commission.
So the motion doesn't necessarily include no matter speed bump, I guess, right? So we've.
I think they've noted,
It's,
they've made those comments very
Okay.
clear.
I just, yeah.
So to his question, we don't need to amend it, that's already part of C, Ed nod, so. The
Okay.
answer is,
I just want, I want everyone to understand.
Correct.
Okay.
Become a condition.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other,
I think I was only going to comment that I wouldn't be of the mind to hold up the application based on a speed bump that they can't control. So I wouldn't be of the mind to continue something that's out of their purview exactly. So that's my choose.
other, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just would like to thank all of you that came and spoke your mind. I know it's a difficult thing to do and we appreciate your opinions.
it and don't even know what that road looks like.
Well, I asked who can we talk to then about just separate from their development? Who can we ask to get speed bumps? If we can help move something along, what should we do? Who should we contact?
Who should they send a note to, Jen? If they have comments, would that be to Watkins?
Well, does anybody even know where 135 road is?
I went there, I drove through there today. So yes, I did.
Gone through there on the weekend and then
Yeah, I mean, I drove through there today and checked it out.
So I would say that that again, in the engineering department is the department that works on the kind of traffic mitigation piece. So I did text the public works director and he said that the road is very short. So there may be a safety issue related to a speed bump, but there are probably other traffic mitigation options that could be employed. So it's really a question for the engineering department.
Okay.
For the purpose of the record, I'd prefer we not have.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, but public comment is closed. So I have a couple questions too. So the water concern came up and I'm assuming, so engineering looked at that and.
Yes, sir.
So any comments on that from what they said?
Yes, Public Works is the department that's in charge of providing water, and that was not flagged as a concern of theirs.
Okay, and another question I had was with the fire truck. I know I live on a cul-de-sac as well, and I saw when I drove through there that they have the cones set up just like they do in my cul-de-sac. No one's happy about that. I'll just throw that out there, but where they're gonna put no parking signs and the cul-de-sacs, but this is a smaller cul-de-sac. So did the fire department comment and I know you have that in there if they did or not, but I just don't recall. Did they comment of? And the road kind of is what it is, so I mean, they can't make a change on that, but.
Right. I would say that if this were a new street and all new developments coming in, we would require the cul-de-sac in the street to be designed differently. But it is what it is today. The fire district didn't have serious concerns about, with locations of hydrants. There's one nearby, and being able to serve. They didn't have concerns.
Okay. Any other questions or conversation we need to have? Okay, I guess we'll call for the question.
Motion passes with Commissioners Wissing, Hardcastle, White, Weimer, and Waller voting yes. Oh, that should be vote passes unanimously. Empty seat did not vote. I'm training Louisa, but apparently myself as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much to the public for coming in too. Appreciate their comments. Okay. Thank you, Watkins. Okay, we're gonna move forward. Next thing on the agenda is commissioner comments. We'll start with Amber, okay?
Although I guess I would have a chance to keep that. I am really sad that the farmers get ahead.
Oh, why don't you push your,
Oh, I have to do it. I'm really sad about the farmer's market.
what are you saying about it?
Well, I'm sad that it was such a messy thing that reflected poorly on the farmer's market in the city, and we all lost a great amenity for town. So for commenting generally on public things, that was my only thing on top of my.
Okay, thank you. Kim? Mitch?
I think I would just say, I've never been on Road 135. I had to Google it. I thought it was out in the boonies somewhere. And I was super surprised to see that it was like in the middle of town in West Glenwood. I guess my comment after the public tonight, you know, with some bias, it feels neglected. From a maintenance, from a policing, from a code enforcement, from just a sort of a presence that these people are cared for and appreciated, you know, on that road. And so I, you know, just, I guess, cheesily entering that into the record. That's how I feel.
And I'm gonna kind of interrupt you, but I guess I'd like to kind of piggyback that a bit. And I think one thing that we did, I remember when we did the new rules or whatever they were, you know, for us that we're not supposed to go by and look at 135 road, even though I do sometimes. But I confess, I know. But loud and proud. I'm Irish.
As the
But-
police over here.
But I guess what my question is, I think it is important to see things and, you know, I think when we went through this conversation a year ago or whenever we did, was that we said, and I think Carl really weighed in on us or something, but was that we couldn't, if we went, did we have to public notice it or something? Was that what we had to do? Because the neighbors had to be there. There was some crazy, do you remember that though? No, but what is the,
We can go on site visits, but everybody who will sit on the dais has to go together.
And you can't talk wider. You just have to use Jimmy John's.
oh, right, because we did that for the 300 units that happened. So, I mean, and I guess the reason I'm kind of digging my hole is that, well, but I mean, could we set something up where before the meeting, you know, we have a standing thing that's maybe at 4 o'clock on that night that what's ever going on, that those of us that can attend can do I think we did like a city van or something when we went to the 300 road, I think.
The short bus? Yes.
The short bus.
That's
why I
did we
was
know
on.
that this was gonna be a little contentious with public? I mean, we didn't receive any public comments prior to this. Because that could be an indicator of like, maybe we need to do a site visit if we receive a bunch of public comments prior to an application or something like that. That could trigger a site visit for us. But we
The
didn't
only
know
t-
that in this circumstance.
The only two site visits that we had done in my time with community development, I think the original application for Bell Rippey, so not the subsequent application for Bell Rippey, and then the 300 units for BLD. So it generally is a larger scale project where we see that request.
I can appreciate the idea of a site visit, but when it all comes down to it, the planner and their perceptions don't really translate into something that we would then say, or, ooh, yeah, we get it, based on what it is that they're saying. I think to a certain degree, we should remain unbiased to the point where we're looking at the code, we're looking at the comprehensive plan in a way that they weren't. So I think it's kind of incumbent on us to all be respectful to our corner of the process. Although in being there, just by default, sometimes you get a better idea of, oh yeah, that overhang is that big. I really didn't realize that. Those are helpful, but they really don't have a bearing on our final decision.
The other thing I would mention is for Bell Rippey, I think the second application, the fire department flew the drone and so that was provided as part of the record for I think both, but maybe just for city council. So we had a request there, and when the fire department is able to accommodate that, they like flying the drone.
You are required to do a drone.
I'm gonna say they didn't submit their drone flight. I'm sorry.
I just kind of want to reiterate what you were saying, just that, you know, there is and I know we can't approve or deny applications based off of public comment, but I feel like it is very challenging to hear these people who are on the ground seeing what's happening in real life and somehow conveying to them, we hear what you're saying, but our hands are tied legally. Like, these are the issues, you know, we don't have jurisdiction over the roads, or we do, but we are working with a much bigger picture. We can't, you know, it's like pointing those things out to the public when they come to speak. I think, they maybe still don't get it, but it's, I think, important.
Well, I guess my comment, and I totally agree with it, just, you know, I think that we need to go by, here's the code, here's the comp plan, here's all of those things that are there. But I think one thing that happens is when you go to, and 135 Road's a great example, you go to one little spot, you don't really see the whole picture of here's what's going on. And I think the conversation was good. I think we got some good things from the public comment, and you know, we heard it just from them, and there might have been, maybe there's some other things that we might have wanted to add in to the presentation. And I thought, Watkins, the presentation was very good. So thank you very much. But, and I don't know, I just think that it's an insight that brings you to the picture of a whole, instead of just, you know, a certain thing like one house or one little development. And shoot, when I looked at the road, there's little developments all over the place. I mean, so it's kind of a quagmire place is what it is. But I really didn't go there. I think it was a drone that flew over and told me about it. Anyway.
There's a mix out there. There's on street.
Oh, did you go there too?
No, I've been there in the past.
That's how you know it. Yeah.
And as I was looking at Google Street View, you can see where somebody doesn't have a whole lot of room, or there is off-street parking required with the previous development. In the big picture and in the end, this is an improvement on the area that is reflective of the newer design elements that are part of that community. And I think this is a good project.
I agree. Do you have any comments?
I think I did mine.
Commissioner. I don't have any. Okay, the director.
Siri's in charge. I think that Trent has sent you some information related to the steering committee. The next steering committee meeting will be via Zoom. And I think that is intended to kind of streamline the process to take comment. And please take a look at what Trent sent you and come with questions and concerns and all those sorts of things, because we're getting to the kind of diving into the more recommendation phase, which I think there's been a lot of desire since the very beginning to get to this phase. So we are now entering that. And then I think that's all I have.
How much longer do you think it's gonna proceed the comp plan?
I think it's intended to finish at the end of the year, and that there would be a joint meeting of Planning Commission and City Council in October. I think the first meeting in October, I'd have to look at the list. And that's to accommodate the conversation related to the comprehensive plan.
I have one last lingering question. Why in the staff report does it say 6 trips? That there would only be an increase of 6 trips under the traffic impact?
Would that have been allocated to maybe per unit?
Or potentially
I have no
additional
idea.
trips in the peak.
Because I felt like a big
So,
jerk.
Yeah, I'll
bringing
jump
that
in
up
while
and-
Watkins is, and he can correct me if I get this wrong, just because I pulled up the traffic report.
Yeah.
As you guys were talking to see, and there is a number in there about peak hour increase, peak trips per hour versus weekday increase. So when you're looking at traffic reports,
Okay.
there's a lot of numbers that get thrown out. So you kind of have to read each line carefully. And so it'll tell you the total trips generated per weekday
Okay.
of the project, which was 102. And it'll also tell you in peak AM hour and peak PM hour, what that equates to. So just an hour of the day, how many trips in and out.
Okay.
That's where the 6 number, I believe, came from.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's on me then. I should.
Okay, that just sounded a little misleading is all.
Mhm.
That's
but-
totally fair. Yep.
I think maybe in the future, if we just had a synthesized small table that had those general findings in the staff report at that point.
Did you want a spreadsheet?
No,
Please.
I want
Dear
to,
Lord,
I want to
we
spread,
want it.
I want to spread. note.
Yes.
A spread note.
Out of your depth, too, you don't even know, you don't even know.
We love them. We love them.
I heard spreadsheets going. in the
Monday,
minutes.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, no.
Know what you just.
I think that's very accommodatable because the traffic engineers actually provide that in their report. So I think it would be easy for staff to just pull that into our staff reports.
That's.
That was
Great job, Watkins. Good job.
Okay. Any other comments?
For your upcoming meetings. We don't have any applications, planning applications for August, so staff is gonna get a little crazy. Possibly with a code amendment on sign permits. We'll see if we can pull that together for you guys. So we are planning.
Sumner, where art thou? Where art thou?
Perhaps we should have him as a guest. So that's what we're planning on having for August. And I don't have what will be coming in September. Today was the deadline for applications. And we didn't necessarily have any that we knew about. Have to check our emails for 5 p.m. deadline, but so we'll see what staff can get up to for the September meeting as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, I guess we're adjourned.
All right.